Ready? Okay. Here we are. It's the meeting of the Ravenna Planning Commission, June 25th, 2024. Would we please do the roll call?
Bill Barber. Here. Tim Content.
Here.
Mark Hairston.
Present.
Carmen Lodato. Here. Frank Seaman.
Here?
Jonathan Jennings.
Here.
Josh Smith.
Here.
Bob Finney.
Here.
Okay, full house, good. All right, you've had an opportunity, I hope, to look over the minutes from the last meeting, which was a while ago. Are there any comments, additions, or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, could we have a motion to approve
I
the
move to
minutes?
accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Okay. We have two new business items before us tonight. The first item is Traven Stevens of the 302 East Main Street, Domino's Pizza, requesting a site plan approval for that address for a walk-in cooler addition at that point. And you're set and ready to do your presentation.
I believe Bob was going to start, or yes, Bob was going to start the presentation off for me, I believe, correct?
No, you can. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, pretty simple, obviously, needed to add an additional walk-in cooler for cooler space. We currently get 3 trucks a week, and a lot of times we're putting the truck away late into the night, as in 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And that just puts a stress on my employees and myself if something happens along that lines, and that's if truck's on time. So if it gets off time, we'll come into, a 4 a.m. or a 5 a.m. call sometimes, so we don't have to leave food out. So it's, more safe for our community and our customers and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, looking to add that on. Currently I have the walk-in ready to be set up, so we're just waiting on permits and approval.
Yeah, there was a concrete pad at the back of the building. They've had to modify it because it wasn't strong enough. I had given them permission to continue working on that while Planning Commission had a chance to review it. I don't see any problems with it. They've submitted plans. They've been approved by our plan examiner.
Does anybody have any questions? Those of you that are members of this commission have any questions or comments to make?
Does it meet the setback requirements?
Yes.
I have a question. And just to clarify, what we're talking about is the cement pad over here, like on the back of this map right here. Like it's,
You can see a faint dashed line.
is that what he's talking about right here?
Behind the building.
Okay, yeah.
Got the big one.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's better.
Yep. So, yeah, so they said it was, well, no, it's in pretty rough shape, so we had to re-secure it up.
Was that what it was they were intending? Did they put that back there with the purpose one day of doing that?
Well, we bought the building, Terry and Debbie did, back in 1990. And I want to say they had everything done out, and that was a plan to put an additional walk-in at some point.
Oh, okay.
Never happened, obviously, so now.
I was gonna say it's a weird place to put a cement pad like that if that's what you weren't planning on doing.
Yeah, I know they, had recycle bin on it for years, and they combined them into the trash and recycle bin in the same one now, so there's only one back there for now.
Any other questions or comments? I would ask, is there anybody from the audience that wants to ask any questions or comments? Okay. Well, seeing none, this is approval of the site plan, and we'll vote on that tonight. If there are no further questions about this, I do entertain a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Tim Content.
Yes.
Mark Hairston.
Yes.
Carmen Lovato.
Yes.
Jonathan Jennings.
Yes.
Frank Seaman.
Yes.
Josh Smith.
Yes.
Bill Baldwin.
Okay, you're approved.
Thank you guys so much.
Good luck.
Okay, the second item of new business is Darcy Fankhauser of 556 North Chestnut Street. They've been in here with us before, from the Super Goods store, which is currently the medical marijuana facility. With the impending decisions coming from the state, they're trying to get ahead of the game a little bit here, and they are before us tonight to talk about additional parking. This is what we need to accomplish tonight is to root out all the various problems that might exist or exemptions or things that they will need. Ultimately, the city council will make the final decision on this. Our purpose is to forward it on to council if we are satisfied with what is going on. Now, we did meet with, I met and Mr. Content met with our engineer, and I'm going to ask him to do, going to have you come up and do your presentation, and I'm going to ask him to add to go over the things that we need to consider tonight. So,
Hi, good evening. I'm Darcy Fankhauser. I'm one of the owners of Supergood, the medical cannabis store at 554 North Chestnut. And we actually expanded our parking lot once already to add plus or minus 20 stalls, and that was absolutely critical for the needs of the business.
I'm going to stop you for a second. Is that mic turned on? 'Cause I'm, because this is never picked that up.
There we go.
Okay,
Perfect. Alrighty.
you have to get close.
No problem. And so we've actually had a very successful business to date. We've been open a little over a year. Those 20 extra parking stalls were absolutely critical for the success of the business. On average, our parking lot is relatively full with the expanded parking lot today, just with the medical patients. We see approximately anywhere from 100 to 200 patients a day. Our business hours are 9 to 9 during the week. But it's a lot of traffic. And with the impending adult use coming to Ohio, we do want to be prepared for additional car traffic. We don't want to be a nuisance in the neighborhood. We want to make sure that the traffic is controlled and that we have enough room to accommodate the additional car traffic. We are projecting that sales will likely, and the traffic count will at least double once the adult use turns on. And I have Kevin Zuber, our head of compliance, here with us as well to answer any questions about the state process to the best of our ability and the best that we are aware of at this point in time. So if you have any questions about process and what the state's kind of told us in terms of what the next steps look like, we are happy to answer any of those questions as well. So we are actually looking for a zoning change for 562 North Chestnut. We're looking to purchase that property to then expand our parking lot even further, and that should accommodate all of the traffic that we need for that location.
What is your current vehicles per hour? Or
That's a
however
very
you
good
measure it.
question. Well, we've been kind of eyeballing it on the cameras to see how many spaces are available. Because right now, on a regular shift, we probably have 8 to 10 employees, and then so the remaining balance is left for customers. So if we have 22 on the one side and additional 4 on the other, half of that is taken by employees, so the other half is for just customers only.
I just know that's a busy section of town.
Exactly, and
And-
we just don't want to create a traffic nightmare at all, coming in and out, people waiting. And if we can expand this parking lot, give a little bit more breathability. The plan that we put together provides for full circulation around the parking lot, so then we have had probably 2 or 3 fender benders in our parking lot in the last year, just to give people a little bit more maneuverability.
So the current application is to change, the parcel they're looking to purchase is R4. So it needs a zoning change, like was done a year ago, from R4 to I1. They're requesting the same thing. So it's Planning Commission's duty to hear, review, and make recommendation to council to change the zoning map. So that's one of the items that Planning Commission is doing tonight. The other is the site plan, overall site plan, ingress, egress, lighting, if we get to that point. There's some setback issues that has to be worked out, so if you tried to look at the regulations, it's difficult to understand, plus they're changing constantly. Planning Commission 3 or 4 months ago asked for a moratorium, I believe, and that was passed. There is a moratorium passed for no new dispensaries. However, the governor has stated existing medical facilities cannot be stopped by the local. So the moratorium states existing or duly licensed shall be permitted to sell medical and adult use. So as I spoke to them a little bit ago, I do not believe Planning Commission, I believe once they get a license from the state, they can actually use their existing facility and start selling
Without coming to planning.
without coming to Planning Commission.
Do we have that in writing somewhere? The state passed that, that's for sure what
Yes,
is
it's-
going on.
It is.
I would like to see that. I'd like to, the law director to weigh in on that.
Okay, because, yeah, and council has seen that. I looked for it before I came, and I couldn't find, I know it's in my emails, but yeah, I understand. There was links, there was multiple links, and when you get to that link, but that's not a problem. However, as they've said, it is expected for the business to grow. And currently, there's 2 medical sales in Kent, one in Ravenna, and that's the only ones in Portage County. There's some, I think 3 or 4, 5 in Summit County, and maybe one in Geauga, a couple in Warren. So there, at least at the onset, there's going to be quite a draw. And we've talked about securing parking off-site, at least for their workers. And if they close on this house, they will be able to put their workers at least in the driveway of that house until further action. So
Where's the city at in the master plan process?
I believe it's supposed to be finished at the end of this year.
Is there anybody from Planning Commission that was appointed to that to weigh in on master plan?
Not that I'm aware of, I am, but
They had $50,000 for the plan. Regional planning is developing that. So there was $50,000 committed to that. And I agree with you. I'd like to see that in place, and then that, it comes down to zoning. A lot of these issues come down to zoning. And then they're going to have to get after that aspect of it. I don't think there'll be a detailed, I'll be surprised if we get a full detailed rezoning over with that amount of money and the amount of time that it takes to put that together. But that's got to become a priority to make that comprehensive plan work. That's my opinion.
Has there been, to your knowledge, discussion within the master plan review committee regarding these types of buildings and what they, at least as far as this sector goes.
Well, we haven't got that far in the review plan, not specific business types.
So we would be essentially forcing that discussion with our recommendation.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Well, they did respond the last time when we made a suggestion.
City council did,
Yeah, and I think that that concern definitely can be stand on, because they're the ones that have the final say, regardless of what we say with that.
Well,
that-
go ahead.
There's a number of things that Bob has not mentioned that we need to get into place. And there's information that you still need to gather also, as I understand it. And we have no idea when the state's going to pull the trigger on this thing with it.
but it could be soon.
Sometime between now and September 7th.
But there are some of the other aspects that we need to look at. Believe it or not, there's a flood zone in that area. They're not in it at this point in time.
The parking lot, the proposed parking lot has a small section that would be in the 100-year floodplain. But it's such a small area that I expect that they would be able to convince the Corps of Engineers that they could still build a parking lot at level, so they don't interfere with the flooding. It'll just come across the parking lot. That's one of the items. And then the setbacks to the property line and the proximity of the two aprons close together. And they'll adjust. They'll adjust for that. That's not, it will be accommodated.
I have additional comments.
I was just going to follow up what Carmen was saying, so I understand. That with respect to the master plan, if we approve this now, that's sort of, the question is, does that become fixed to do so the master plan has to accommodate that? Or city council can say, we want to wait till the master plan is done before we want to go forward with this?
Keep in mind, they're the ones that will have the final vote.
Right, they'll have the final vote, so we are not, they have the option, so we're not mandating the change to what Todd's doing with the master plan.
No.
If city council goes forward with this, then they're putting that.
Yeah, the
that
master
limitation.
plan will be considered ahead of everything else once it's in place.
And the master plan should be in place before the moratorium runs out. So the moratorium was passed May 6th. So May 6th of 2025, the moratorium will run out. And a couple of the items in the moratorium was cannabis sales will not be permitted in Central Business District, and no new sales, medical or recreational, will be allowed in the city during this moratorium. But it does exclude, based on what the governor's saying, it does exclude Supergood.
So whether or not the moratorium's in place has no bearing on the proposed parking lot.
Well, if they can, if the state says they can go ahead and sell with what they've got right now, we just have the traffic jam.
Right, yes. Yeah, based on their medical sales and their projected, one of the things we had discussed in Michigan, they don't generally have medical sales anymore. It's just all recreational. There was no real benefit to have a medical card when you can buy recreational marijuana legally. So you'd almost say medical just almost goes away. Maybe there was a tax credit.
Yes, so in the state of Michigan, and they're setting it up similarly here in Ohio, is that for recreational sales, there will likely be a 10% excise tax. So what we do in Michigan, because the medical card holders have kind of dwindled over time, is that if you do have one, purchase through the recreational side, but we'll give you a 10% discount to wipe away that excise tax. So that excise tax is the main difference in total cost between a recreational sale and a medical sale.
Okay, but it's the same product? There's no difference in product?
Correct.
I have additional questions. Approximately how many additional spaces? I counted 30.
It's right around 30, but again, this is a draft, more of like a concept plan, because we had the survey being done in the background. So we have plenty of opportunity to make adjustments as needed.
Okay, so, I mean, and this is just my comments to the rest of the commission, we're talking about a neighborhood. And I know I was a big proponent when it was medical marijuana, and I felt there was a lot of value in that. I really feel like that vote and conversation would have been different for all of us if the conversation would have been towards a future magnet for recreational sales in that particular area of town. And within the absence of a master plan, we have to think about what those are for. And those are for when we talk about our neighborhoods and the character. And when I think about 50 spaces being cleared in the middle of a neighborhood right there, and, you know, with the medical marijuana, we made the argument that it's people who are in need, who are in medical need of this. But if this is recreational, we really are going to get a more unpredictable transient group of people there. And at the last council meeting, we talked about the moratorium. It was discussed that the state of Ohio is not allowing cities to benefit from this in any way. We're not allowed to charge any type of fees.
They get a portion of the 10% excise tax.
Okay, which,
So they do get something.
that's, yeah, it's next to nothing. And it's gonna cause, there's gonna need to be extra increased police presence. And, you know, we could kick the can up or down the road to council, but, I mean, when I was on council in another city, I strongly considered what Planning Commission recommended. And I really felt that those were people that kind of weighed out and talked about the tough issues. And then I also have a problem a little bit with the integrity, because when this project was proposed to us initially, there were a lot of things that were said that were not made good on. And sometimes I've used in these meetings your business as an example of why I don't trust people when they come up and they say they're gonna do a certain thing in a certain way, even starting with the name. And I know that that Mr. Finney stopped, there was a pot leaf that was gonna be on the sign. That's correct, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So there was this guarantee in words to this commission that when your business was built, that we wouldn't be able to even tell what you were selling. But before we turn around, it's the name change where there was an attempt to put a marijuana leaf on it. And so I feel like from my perspective, there's this broken trust about what's going to go on there. And also keeping in mind of where it is. It is down the street from the schools. The high school is, what, 3/4 of a mile down the road?
Yes, that's right.
It's close. And so for me, I really just kind of think about if I lived in this area, what would I feel like? And I would feel like I would be very upset with a planning commission that is now basically taking a Field of Dreams approach. If we build it, they will come. If you build 100 spaces, I'm sure you'd fill them. But then we have to ask ourselves, is that the character? Is that what we want in the city?
Well, the way I see it, this is an existing business. State of Ohio has not allowed us to have any control over how much business or what kind of business goes on there.
But we can control
All we
how
can
much goes
control
in.
is how much parking do they have and what is the traffic flow. I mean, we like it or we don't like it, it really doesn't matter what we think about the business. We got to deal with the traffic and the parking. My concern on this is that there's 3 accesses to Chestnut Street, and I would question whether we would need a traffic study to see if we need a light there at Lincoln for one of these outlets.
That was one of the items that we discussed. The code mentions 2 aprons shall not be closer than 75 feet, I believe. They'll address that.
I know this is a busy road, and I know it's made worse because right at the edge of the property, all of the buses have to stop for the railroad tracks. Generally, I hate to see any housing torn down, especially with rents as high as they are. I hate to diminish the supply, but if they're gonna purchase the property, they have some amount of right of what they wanna do with it.
Yeah, one thing that we don't want to see is a sea of asphalt,
Okay.
especially around, I see you've got some proposed fencing along there or something. But one of the things that bothers me about that, even with the fencing around, if you've got a black sea of concrete, it's a black sea of concrete. It ends up getting, damaged over time from winter and all the rest of that stuff. So if we would go forward with that, I would want to see some sort of landscaping done.
Like landscape islands within the
Well,
parking lot?
I'll let you come up with something, but it has
For
to
sure.
be something that takes away that,
Soft approach.
Absolutely.
well, it makes that soft approach, right. I really don't want this as a, big black sea of asphalt with little white lines on it or yellow lines on it. But yeah, so if we just, because Carmen's right, it's the character of the neighborhood.
For sure.
So we've got to do something to protect that character.
Mhm.
And I
We would be
understand
open to that.
Jonathan's saying as well, that, it's a business and, so one of the things we're looking at is can we accommodate both of those things? But right now, that's a little bit up in the air, but I would not like to see just something straight concrete. So that's gonna knock some of your spaces out.
That's fine.
I agree with what you're saying, Bill. But also, I think we have to keep in mind, we already brought these folks and their business to our community. The change that's happening to their business is not their doing. It's being done by the state. And if we block or attempt to block their growth of their business, then who are we? I mean, it's something to be said that they're doing a good job of what they said they would do. There are some things, I agree, that didn't happen or tried to happen or whatever, but I'll give credit to Bob. He's stayed on top of it and everything has stayed fairly straight. If I think back in my history in this town and think about that whole area, and I think about the Gulf gas station, or fuel station actually, that was right down the street, the parking lot for, gravel parking lot for RHA Stadium, AC Williams, and then they were, I can't think of the name, they're out on 44
Allen Aircraft?
now. No.
I don't know.
Or, it was a smelting business. So all that had twice the parking that these folks are looking for. I agree with keeping communities, homes, and all that too. And bottom line, sometimes something has to give.
Well, I just believe that part of our duty, especially when we're talking about changing something that's designated residential to commercial, that we have to tread carefully. No matter, because when, like I said, we did approve a business. We approved a medical marijuana business. I understand the state changed its rules, but that doesn't mean that we have a right to go and change the neighborhoods that surround it. And using that framework of logic, the gentleman who got permission to sell firearms out of his house, if he would have come here and said, I want to tear down the house next to me because I have 100 customers coming a day to buy weapons from my home, then we can't use that logic to apply to something like that. We have to be really careful. To me, the bigger picture is protecting the character of the neighborhood. And I do think that if there had to be a compromise, it would be a lot less spaces and more green space integrated with the plan. But I just really think that we just need to tread very carefully with what we're doing.
Bob, when I talked with you, you were talking about the possibility of tabling, and there was a reason for that.
So, to my original conversation, so Planning Commission would recommend to council, or it's Planning Commission's duty to recommend to council a zoning map change for the parking lot. The other component is it's Planning Commission's duty to approve and/or condition the site plan as submitted. So, as we've been discussing, they're gonna make some changes. They're gonna try to address some of the comments. And it doesn't sound like in the next 2 months, 3 months, possibly they'll even be permitted. Potentially, it could be in 3 weeks. They don't know. You're saying it's a first come, first serve. You've submitted your application, so it's going through the process. How many medical sales are in Ohio right now?
Dollar amount?
No. How many businesses?
100 and, I think it's close to 120.
Okay, all right. So, anyway, they're in the queue somewhere. So it could come quick, it might not, but
I have a question. How many additional, what is it, how many of these additional spaces or addition of land is forcing the question of whether it goes residential or commercial? Is it because it's 30 spaces, or would 10 spaces still keep it in an R4? I mean,
no, so in the R4 parking lots, in a residential zone district, parking lots are not permitted.
okay.
So that's what's necessitating the zoning map change.
Correct.
So I would recommend Planning Commission table this until next month, allow them to research the items, that I have pointed out to them. Again, setbacks, parking, it changes a little bit from I-1. Setbacks to a residential district is 40 feet against a resident. Did I say that right? Yeah. In an I-1, a parking lot has a 40-foot setback to a residential district. It doesn't mean they can't request a zoning variance.
So that's what we approved the last time, was a zoning variance without changing the zoning.
No, the zoning did get changed.
To what?
I-1.
Okay, so, but I see the house they tore down is still in an R4. So we're changing the lot next door.
Correct. Yeah, the current parking lot was changed, and they're now asking again for the next one. To accommodate, obviously, the business. It is a discreet looking business. You don't really know what it is when you drive by. There's no tell to it. And I would assume that, that you're not going to change the facade much. If you were, I mean, again, signage would still not allow anything showing.
Oh, for sure.
It's going to remain discreet. So that would be my recommendation, to table it until next month, and then they'll have time to work on some of the items that we discussed.
I'll make that motion to table it to allow time to modify the plan.
Do we have a second? Any more discussion about this?
I have just one little thing. And Carmen, I'm side by side with you on all your points. But the one thing I think we have to keep in mind, that change to their business is going to get regulated from the state, and it's going to happen. If we don't do something to help protect the traffic control and things of that nature, which is what they're aiming to do with the added parking spots, then we're going to have a bigger problem in changing one lot's
Keep
zoning.
in mind, every now and then a train goes through there too. It's all right in the metal.
But the train does not go through the parking lot.
No, not yet. And bicycles,
Not intentionally.
all day long. Yeah, it's a busy area. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other conversation? comments?
Is there any value to bifurcating the decision?
I'm sorry?
I mean, one part is the site
Yeah.
plan, one part is the zoning. Is there any value to changing potentially or conditionally the zoning so that they can at least move forward with purchase or tear down? Or
Planning Commission can recommend. I mean,
is it better to keep it all together?
If I was them at the podium, I wouldn't buy that house right now. I'd wait for a minute. That house has been there forever. It ain't going anywhere.
Jonathan, I'm not sure how council will perceive moving forward without Planning Commission's site plan approval.
So there's really no value to
I don't-
bifurcating it?
Yeah, I don't see that.
Okay. Just a procedural question.
Are we ready to vote?
Right, you guys are ready. Okay. So we are voting to table it to next month. Yes. And allow them to figure out this. Okay. Tim Content,
Yes.
Mark Hairston,
Yes.
Craig Stevens,
Yes.
Jonathan Jennings,
Yes.
Josh Smith,
Yes.
Bill Barber,
Yes.
Carmen Lovato.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, there is no old business. All we need is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You want to stay longer? Okay.
I'm hungry.
Second? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
I didn't actually, Larry sent me something. Like it, and you discussed. We gotta figure out how to monitor.
Price, Carmen.
Oh,
I probably got it.
I'll look for that link and forward it on to you guys.
If I was the florist across the street, I'd start selling stuff and grow weeds at home. If you come back here for, ask for 100 parking spaces, probably sell them.
All right.
That's it.
Yep.
Me too.